Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, welcome back. Chase Thomas podcast. Andrew Ivins, 247 Sports Director of Scouting, is here. Andrew, we still got a couple months here before early National Signing Day, but a lot of Tennessee's 2026 class done. Now we're having to learn 27 names, 28 names, and it's just, Cooper Witten's of the world, and we continue to get older and older. Like the new names you see pop up, and you're like, that can't be right. That's not Noel Devine Jr. That's not where we're at, but that's where we're at. We got to be prepared for the next wave, right?
Yeah, Noel Devine Jr., Devin Hester's kid in 2030, the class of 2030. Hopefully I'm not doing this at that point, but who knows?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Who was your first, like you were when your recruiting days where you saw the name and you were like, oh, I'm getting up there in age. This is who I think it is.
I think it's that next wave. And I guess these kids would be in middle school, like Noel Devine. He's got one of the greatest highlight tapes of all time. You could put Devin Hester in there as well. So I think those two, Vernell Brown at Florida, the freshman receiver, like I remember his dad returning punts for the Gators. And then, you're watching UF this season and he's out there making plays and he looks just like dad in the return game. So he's another one. I joked with his dad about that. I'm like, I remember when I was like a young boy watching you suited up on Saturdays there, back when it was like Jefferson Pilot Sports that was doing the SEC games.
I miss that. They should bring back Jefferson Pilot Sports for one game. There was something, if you weren't there for it, you have no idea. The kids today, they have no idea what it was like to get Vanderbilt, South Carolina on Jefferson Pilot Sports. Like, it was just a different deal. It was nice. It was a great start to your day because it's at noon. It's comfortable. You ease into the college football day. You ease into the 3:30 SEC CBS game. It's just nice. Jefferson Pilot Sports. It's a good hang.
But I need to bring it back. Maybe like a throwback week or something. That would really age us, though.
100%. There was I'll always regret not pulling the trigger. I found like a vintage Jefferson Pilot Sports like hat a couple of years ago on eBay, and I like watched it and I was like, do I do it? Is this really necessary? And then it got taken. I was like, this was dumb. Someone else jumped they were like, yeah, obviously I'm getting a Jefferson Pilot Sports like vintage early 2000s hat. And I was like, what was I doing? Because there's just no. Because with our offices, we're doing video and everything. I would love to put some Jefferson Pilot Sports merch up because the real OGs remember. I remember a lot of Bobby Johnson Vanderbilt football games on at noon on Jefferson Pilot Sports, but that is neither here nor there. Andrew Ivins. I will say though, there is a guy in this class for Tennessee who Kedrick Golston II, where I feel like his dad retired from the NFL a long time ago. Like I remember Golston, so that was one where I was like, this checks out. Like that of all the ones like Cooper. Still a little bit there with Witten, but like Kedrick Golston II, I was like, that seems about right. I feel like he has been done with his NFL career for a long time now, and that this makes sense. But that doesn't happen most of the time.
Yeah, and I think he's coaching his son, right? One of those head coach. Kind of. It's always interesting to see, what these guys do later in life, if they're in the media or if they're coaching. I think, and Jason's obviously coaching Cooper Witten's team there as well. So those are guys that just love football. And usually, when you turn on the tape of their sons, you can tell right away that like, okay, this kid grew up going to OTAs, has a really good understanding of the game.
Well, we're going to talk some Tennessee recruiting here, especially here in the 2026 cycle. Andrew, I wanted to pick your brain on a couple different things. How much do you like this Vols class in 26? I think it's going to end up being the highest ranked hypo class thus far, barring some crazy decommits down the stretch here. But what do you like most about what Heupel and his staff have done with this 26 class?
I think the first thing that really jumps out to me, offensive firepower. Obviously, you got a 5-star quarterback, you get a 5-star wide receiver, and then you got a 5-star offensive tackle after landing a 5-star offensive tackle the year prior. And I know David Sanders has had some setbacks medically. We haven't seen him in a Vols uniform yet, but I think the word, and you would know better than me coming out of Knoxville, is they feel good about what they got in David Sanders. So to me, like, you want to talk about offenses and premium positions, like Tennessee's covering their bases there in terms of what it could look like, 2 years down the line. And obviously so much changes in college football. The roster turnover, the player movement, these guys can go every different way. But I think at the end of the day, you need to get like a baseline of, okay, if we want to pencil in our offense and, hey, this is how we're going to allocate this money. We're going to use this here. At least Tennessee has a vision, I think, really at the most premium positions on offense. And it can be up in the air how you view a wide receiver, but the tackles, the quarterback, they got those individuals. I think the other thing for Tennessee is, this cycle got off to a slower start. And I remember back in June, like Tennessee was sitting 50th in the rankings.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, hey, what's going on here? Now you look up and it's in the top 10 or knocking on the door of a top 10 finish. And we'll see how it all shakes out, right? Obviously, we're going to finalize our rankings. Other people are going to finalize their rankings. You got all the senior season evaluations, but this is a good group. And yeah, star power at the top, but you go down the commit list, right? And you get into the 3-star range, and hey, 3 stars are players too. And you like the different components. And I've been saying this for years. Like, I think what Tennessee has done on the defensive side of the ball, when it comes to high school recruiting, they're getting guys that fit their system, that can come in and be multi-year starters in the SEC. And Banks, the defensive coordinator, I think they've done an excellent job there. And you saw it this past weekend against Georgia, right? It's like a lot of homegrown guys. They're not leaning on these veterans. It's individuals that can come in and be in the system for 2 years. And in some cases, it's, you look at like a Tyler Redmond right away, but guys that can be in the 2 deep in the SEC. So I think there's a lot of that in the recruiting class as well. It's not just the individuals at the top, but you get further and further down, and you're like, all right, I understand what's going on. And then, last thing I'll say that I like about the Tennessee class, I think they might have the best linebacker tandem committed in the country right now. I'm a huge Braden Rouse fan. I think what he's been able to do as a senior, he has flipped that switch, right? And he's a converted pass catcher. He still gets it done on the offensive side of the ball, but he is how you want them to look, right? 3-down linebacker. He's comfortable in space. Is it all there yet? No, but showing more, contact speed, getting around the field, really like him. And then I think pairing him with TJ White, who can offer some on-ball, off-ball flex, it makes a ton of sense. And both those guys are expected to be at the Navy All-American Bowl in January. I mean, hopefully we'll see what happens. Sometimes, especially at Tennessee, some of these guys go to the bowl practices. Sounds like it's up in the air if the NCAA is going to continue that. But to me, being involved with that game, like, that's a storyline. And I think linebacker is such a late developing position that as the dust has settled, right, and as we've gotten into these senior years, I mean, those two absolutely top 247 players, and they're guys that I think can make an impact in the SEC.
I mean, Braylon Outlaw has like 9,000 tackles in 2 years down there in Alabama too. Like, he's just a ball hawk, right? Like, and he's the third guy there. And you pull on his tape, like, he's just a straight linebacker. Like, that dude's just a dog. Like, he's just like he's kind of like T-Lander to me, where you have those guys who you could just see the leadership qualities. Like, they're just going to be tackling machines. They're in the box kind of guys. But you talk about Braden Rouse, man, that was a big win over Texas. And Rouse, like over there at Kel, I mean, you got Joel Combe also coming in for Tennessee in that class, but Tennessee doesn't have a tight end in this class. It's like, hey, Braden, we're doing some both ways here. Let's get you in on a tight end too, because we don't know if we're gonna have one here, because he's a really good pass catcher. You watch him, you're like, he could do both. Not at the SEC level probably, but I mean, he's good at it.
Oh yeah, so, I mean, he catches the football, and I think what's impressive for a guy that's probably 215 pounds, 6'3", like, usually makes the first defender miss. And we usually kind of use that tag for, these high profile wide receivers. But I do think that shows up. I mean, to me, like, he just has the look of an SEC linebacker, like these new age guys that you can keep on the field on 3rd and long. Like, this is like a loose comp, and I'm not even sure how many people are going to be familiar with the player, but like he has a similar build to me as Chris Cole, who's a year 2 player there at Georgia. Now, Chris Cole looks like an animal now that he has been in Athens for 2 years.
Tennessee was in the final 2 there. Like that was a Tennessee Georgia battle.
We'll see. Like, all right, what does it look like? But man, I think if they can get him there in a developmental program where he's not platooning on both sides of the ball, I think he's one where you see those off-season photos like right before training camp, and you're like, okay, this guy looks like he has been pumped with muscle milk.
I'm excited about the linebacker class. I mean, they just have so many dudes, but it's kind of like this year. I mean, you brought up Ty Redmond, and this wasn't really on my list, but I mean, it's just kind of, I think it's caught a lot of ball fans by surprise that he's a plug-in. I mean, part of it's just because you're just destroyed with injuries at corner to start the year. Ricky gone long term, no Dramad, obviously. Colton Hood's been a plug and play, great transfer. I mean, he was a 4-star in the state of Georgia a couple cycles ago and was a really good player. And then you have Ty Redmond, who is out of a powerhouse, right? At Milton, him and his teammate Dylan Lewis. I mean, are you surprised at all that Ty Redmond was a plug and play guy for Tim Banks and his unit?
Yeah, I think a little surprised that he has been as successful as he's been right through 3 games. But you take a step back and, like I said, hey, 3 stars are players too. Like Ty Redmond came up for us as a potential 4-star. Like he was right there at the buzzer. He finished as an 89, like our highest 3-star grade. I saw him very early in his senior season when Milton came down to South Florida. I think with him, like battle tested, a guy that has played, as you said, at a powerhouse in Milton, right? They played a lot of big games. They played deep into the fall months consistently there. We're in the conversation in the playoffs. So battle tested. I always thought he was like really good in the sense that there was no panic when the football was airborne. Now, I think there was some questions, all right, maybe about the top end speed and what he is as an athlete. But at the end of the day, a guy that can maintain phase, a guy that is comfortable and doesn't panic when the football is in the air. And I think the other thing with these corners, like you're not going to bat 1,000%, right? So what happens when you are beat? What does the next rep look like? What does the next series look like? And he is calm and collected. So, is it surprising that, he has been such a key piece of Tennessee's defense? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, if you go back to what he was in high school, it makes sense. It was all there, and we'll see how it plays out. But for Tennessee, I mean, that's going down into SEC country. What they've been able to do in Georgia, I think really specifically on the defensive side of the ball over the past 2, 3, 4 recruiting cycles, very, very impressive.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, there's part of me, like you watched the safety, because I like Farouk a lot long term. I like Idris. I'm another powerhouse product from St. Francis over there in Baltimore. Tennessee's done really well there. It's interesting where they've done really well. Like part of what I've really appreciated, I know you're a Florida guy, Andrew, but one of the biggest frustrations for me with Tennessee was, let's try. Because remember that Kai Bates couple cycles ago, where he ends up at Florida State, and that was like Tennessee was fighting for a while, and then of course he doesn't end up at Tennessee. I just stop chasing Florida kids. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, that just has to stop. Tennessee has to make there's not enough talent in the in-state to become a student, like to be a Georgia or an Alabama. Like, you can't win that way. You have to, what Fulmer did, where you have North Carolina, you have South Carolina, you have Georgia, Tennessee. Like, you want to lock down your borders to an extent, but you have to be a little bit more creative. And I think that's something that Tennessee fans struggle when they look at recruiting rankings for Tennessee. It's like, when are you going to catch Georgia? When are you going to Texas? It's like, well, maybe when Tennessee high school football is as good as the state of Georgia and Texas, like that's part of the deal.
Well, I'll add this, and
yeah,
I'm not super versed in like the intertwinings of Tennessee high school football. Yeah. From my perch, like I think it's improving in the state.
Yeah,
I think when you look at some of the academies where they're boarding some of the players.
Yeah,
like
Baylor.
We're seeing some of the Canadians come in. Like I think the talent has improved there. I think Tennessee's doing an excellent job in state from again my vantage point. And that's another thing when you look at this 2026 recruiting class, like where they are electing to spend time recruiting. You see them up in New Jersey. I think that's a smart play. They've gotten into Texas, right? They'll go down into Alabama. And then Georgia is kind of a major focus for them. So I think it makes a ton of sense. And, recruiting has changed so much with the name, image, and likeness. Like, is recruiting really still regional? I don't, you can make the case that it's not, but I still think you got to recruit your backyard. I think you got to get your hotbeds. Like, hey, if we were playing, the video game, what states are your pipelines? And I think with how it's come together for Tennessee, it makes sense. Again, New Jersey, Texas, Alabama, Georgia. I mean, those are going to be top 15 all when it comes to states producing NFL talent.
Yeah. Tristen Keys, since we last talked, he flipped to Tennessee. Obviously a long-term play for Tennessee and a big win for Kelsey Pope. It was great to have him on campus when Chris Brazzell and Braylon Staley and company go off, and Salesi Moa, another big win over Utah down the stretch as a legacy kid from the Utes. But I'm curious from Keys, like one of the things I just think Tennessee is in such an interesting spot in 26 at receiver now, because they have a couple guys who can plug and play. I mean, I'm really excited about Tyreek King. He's just been going off at Knoxville Catholic here. It looks like the next slot burner, but you look at it and you're like, all right, I really like Travis Smith, and he looks like a ready to go guy on the outside. Rodarius Jackson has been kind of a surprise for Tennessee here in the early part of the year. I mean, you're not going to be able to keep all these guys happy, but you bring in Tristen Keys, and I tell people, I'm like, there's a lot of pressure on Braylon Staley and Mike Matthews this year because there's a lot of young talent behind them, and you can't keep everybody. So it's like one of these guys has to go off. So you're like, all right, they're part of our immediate future here. We'll see what Brazzell. I mean, Todd McShay's got him potentially a wide receiver run. So Brazzell, if he keeps this up, Brazzell's NFL draft bound. But I look at Keys, and you see there was 3 5-stars in the cycle before with Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, and Cam Coleman. They all had great years. They were plug and play guys, like whether it was Peyton Thorne, whoever was throwing the football, they were fine. Is Tristen Keys at that level for you that you would be surprised if he's not a plug and play starter and a big time contributor right away for the Vols? Or is he someone where you've seen that where the year 2, Chris Brazzell is a year 2 bump, Jalen Hyde, year 2 bump, like Braylon Staley, year 2 bump, or is he kind of different in that way?
Well, a few things here, right? Like I mentioned wide receiver kind of being a premium position, and I think it is in college football. And I think if you are an offense that wants to create the explosive plays like we saw on Saturday with Chris Brazzell, like continue to throw not numbers at the problem. No, I'm not saying it's a problem, but build a daunting kind of wide receiver room. And I think you want guys of all different shapes and sizes. I mean, there's a big saying in, the evaluation side of things and the team building side of things. Like you want a basketball roster, right? Guys that, you want some guards, you want some swing forwards, you want the big man. And, I think for Tennessee, like they need to continue to keep doing that. And, Braylon Staley, I feel like has come on right in year 2. Still waiting to see it with Mike Matthews. When Travis Smith caught that pass on Saturday, I was like, whoa, like who is that? Number one, because he looks like a physical freak. It's one where you're pulling up the roster on your phone. You're like, okay, that's Travis Smith. I think very encouraging that he's already in the mix, and it sounds like he kind of exceeded expectations, or Tennessee feels like they hit based on what he was able to do in the spring and again in fall practices. I like how you brought up the Jeremiah Smith, the Ryan Williams, the Cam Coleman, because kind of what I always do and what I do with my team, like now that we've seen that generational class of wide receivers, and it also includes guys like Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, Ryan Wingo. I mean, Nick Marsh at Michigan State. Like any wide receiver recruit, it's kind of okay. Where would they stack up if they were in that 2025 class? Are they in the 5-star conversation? I think the 24 class. I think if we look at the 2025, the one guy where it was like, he would have been a 5-star is DeCorian Moore, who's now at Oregon. Tristen Keys to me is the one wide receiver here in 2026 coming out of the junior seasons where I thought, okay, he would be in the 5-star conversation with that generational group, with that, 2025 class where it's just so fun to watch those guys now, especially in year 2. I thought Tristen Keys had the best junior tape of the wide receivers. Now, I say that because, the junior tape, because he has not played yet as a senior, right? Dealing with, I've heard a knee injury. He hasn't played in the first 3 games. I heard he's actually supposed to be back. I think it's next week, September 22nd. He's going to return. So eager to see what he looks like. He was at the OT7 championship back in late June. He was good. Was he like taking over games? Maybe not. I mean, he was playing with on a loaded team with a bunch of wide receivers. Where I was kind of hoping where it was like, hey, the Tristen Keys show, similar to what we've seen guys like Jeremiah Smith do in that setting. But it's not the end all, like be all. Like I don't think you can hold that against those kids. What is the motivation as you gear up for your senior season? So. To me, Tristen Keys, potential game wrecker. I love how he's built. Wide receivers come in all different shapes and sizes. I think everyone's got their flavor of what they're looking for. To me, I like the guys that are high hipped. Usually means they're explosive individuals. That is Tristen Keys. So, I think he's someone you can play him on the outside, you can play him on the inside, and I think he can flip the field. So for Tennessee, with Faizon Brandon there, this is a guy that, is he going to be all SEC, all freshman, all American year 1? I don't know yet. I got to see what, the rest of, the next few months look like. With that being said, he was at the Under Armour All-American game. He was a top performer as a junior there. He went out to Hawaii. He was a top performer there as well. So we've seen him do it in the best on best settings, like him as a route runner, attacks the football. Really, really fun player.
Do you have time for 3 quick ones for you?
Yeah. I'm rambling on Tristen Keys, but whatever you got.
Well, and you bring out the Keys and the Smith part, and then I'll hit you with the 3 quick ones here. But Tennessee, there's a strong part of me. I'm conflicted because Mike and I, 2 Part B alums here. I am a Mike Matthews guy, but there's part of me, you see the safety stuff, and you kind of wonder in high school because he's really good at safety, really good at receiver. I wish Tennessee could talk it. Tennessee really needs help at safety right now, and they might have a little bit more juice at receiver, especially going to next year. It's like, Mike, are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to play safety? We can get you in the first round, second round as a safety, man. Like we developed pretty well. Look at Will Brooks and Jalen McCullough. And are you sure you're not a safety? There's just a part of me that's like, I kind of wonder because like it's so funny, and I imagine it's kind of hard for you guys when you watch these 2-way guys who are so good at both sides. You're like, man, and you can't change if the player wants to be something. When he goes, you can't lie to these kids. Like they're gonna just transfer. If you're like, yeah, we'll definitely bring you in here and you'll be a 2-way player, and then you just stick him on defense. Like it's not how it works. Like with Boo is such a playmaker with the ball in his hands. You just see like he and Mike are the 2 guys I think have the most wiggle of anyone on this Tennessee roster right now. But there's still just a part of me. I'm like, are we sure Boo's not a slot guy? Are we sure Boo's just not better to just be an offensive gadget guy, and he's not really a defense first guy, and that's not his future? I struggle with it with Boo and Mike because I do look at this roster and I'm like, man, it would be helpful depth-wise and just where Tennessee's at if you flip Boo to just an offensive player, punt returner, and just let him, because tackling is just at a premium now because no one tackles nearly as well as they used to, and Boo Carter is one of the hardest players to tackle in the SEC. And then you look at Mike, where I'm just like his ball skills and everything else, where he just doesn't look comfortable on the outside to me at receiver. I just don't know what he is. Is he a slot guy? Is he an outside guy? I just feel like with safety, man, I wish I could like have a conversation, be like, Mike, are you sure? Are you sure you're not a safety?
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people forget about like Mike Matthews is could have played college basketball. Now it wouldn't have been at a high level. I mean, he was a kid that was on my freaks list. I think what always stood out to me was him and like the body control and coordination at the catch point. And we got a lot of pushback. He didn't finish as a 5-star prospect for us. I mean, we'll see. Hey, does he go in the round 1? Just a guy where I didn't think he really stacked up with some of those other 5-star wide receivers that we mentioned. Now, I think if it all comes together, I think the player comp we had for him was like Rashee Rice. Just one where, hey, it might be more of a longer burn. I agree on hey, could see the vision as a safety. And normally with me, like when you get these two-way guys, I'm always like, put them on defense. Why? I just think it's harder to play defense. Like I'd rather have a good defense. You could take like JoJo Trader at Miami. Like I always thought he was a better defensive back. To me, like I like Travis Hunter at corner, right? More than I do at wide receiver. And, I think like what is Travis Hunter's like lasting impact? And I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I think he's opening the door for these two-way players. Now there was a ton of people in the preseason that said, hey, we got this guy, we're going to play both ways. And, I've been trying to track it the best I can. Like, I think really one of the only guys that is getting significant snaps on both sides of the ball is Martell Height at Vanderbilt. Like, they are absolutely really using him. Utah is also playing a bunch of guys both ways. But, I think Travis Hunter kind of opened the door. And I personally would like to see more guys do it. I think it's easier to do in college than it is in the NFL.
All right. Well, Utah needs to cool it, man, because Salesi Moa is in the boat, man. I don't care how many guys you have to play two ways. Can't do it.
You bring up Moa, and I know we just talked about Tristen Keys. Like, I do think Tennessee also has like some other fun offensive weapons that are committed. And you mentioned Salesi Moa, and I think he's an inside-outside guy as well. To me, I kind of like him at safety, but you see the vision of him at wide receiver. I think he's got 7 touchdowns through 5 games. I mean, another one where 3-level separator. He was good at the OT7 stuff. That was like my first time really around him, but like what he's done as a senior. You mentioned Tyreek King, 3-star prospect for us right now, guy that's on the top 247 watch list. We're not updating the 2026 rankings for a little bit, right? We're kind of get closer to that early signing period. I mean, he's a guy that's gone 4.39. I think he's the ideal slot, someone you can get involved in the swing pass game, the screen pass game, underneath routes, right? You scheme him open. He can turn these short 5-yard passes into chunk plays. Joel Wyatt, I think his move, and I know his football program shut down, but now at Oakland, I think that was good for his development. Another guy on both sides of the ball. I think as a wide receiver, and I'm not saying Chris Braswell, but like I think that's what you need to picture Joel Wyatt is a big, long vertical threat, right? And that's what he's going to be, in my opinion, having, watch his senior stuff. And I know he's doing it on defense. I know some teams thought like, hey, second level defender, potentially as a linebacker. I don't know if I see that physicality there, but a guy that can get vertical, right? And he is a big target. And then, the one that really fires me up, and I don't know where exactly Tennessee plans to of him, but Legend Bay, man.
He's a running back, man. I watched that tape and I'm like, he's a running back at Tennessee.
That's what I think he is. And kind of reminds me a little bit of Tommy Castellanos at Florida State, right? A lot of SEC schools wanted him at running back. He goes to UCF to play quarterback under Gus, Boston College. Now he's back with Gus at Florida State. He's like a 4.13 guy in the short shuttle. And, we always throw these like numbers out. And I think a lot of people are like, well, what does that mean? I mean, that is elite short area quickness. And I think when you put on the tape, it shows up with Legend Bay. And I agree with you. I think if I'm Tennessee running back and Josh Heupel over the years, like he's got some savvy running back evaluations. RJ Harvey, who was a second round pick, was a beast at UCF. And to me, Legend Bay, I mean, he's ran for almost 3,000 yards facing Texas 6A competition. I think he's the guy that for us that is going to finish inside the top 247. I love that take for them. Is he a burner? Probably not, but man, he's got the speed and the quickness to reach the perimeter. He's got the wiggle, really good vision as a ball carrier. I think Tennessee has something there in Legend Bay.
Yeah, I don't think he's a slot guy because I think that's what people assume. And I'm like, I just don't think that's not what Tennessee needs in the slot. Like, that's not there's a reason Squirrel struggled the most of all the Tennessee slot guys to this point. I don't think that's for him. I don't think that's, especially with all the crossers now. Legend Bay with the changes to this offense this year in particular, and where Tennessee's deep, I don't think that's a spot. I think the way to use him, especially you don't have a running back in this class. Like right now, unless you can flip somebody like Amari Latimer or something, you're not taking a running back just to take one. And it's like Legend Bay just might be the guy. Like you bring him in. It's kind of like, I think you can't be scared because Cam Seldon didn't work out because you just took the hyper athlete from Virginia and you put him at running back, and then Virginia Tech flipped him to receiver, and that hasn't gone well. But it's just it's kind of like that whole thing in terms of, I forgot someone who made a great point about this, and it's something that I think is overlooked, is that receiver, Tennessee's taking a bunch of shots. Doesn't mean these all are going to hit, but you just take as many guys as you can. You take as many guys in the offensive line, the defensive line. Tennessee might take like 5 Leos in this class. Like they're still in it with Dre Quinn, Andrew Rogers, and you already got Golston and Edwards, and you flipped Hezekiah Harris, and you're like, all right, how many are we taking here? Like, okay, like I don't know.
I think TJ White could play some Leo as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Christian Gass, the last class you haven't seen. I mean, that was a big win over Georgia, and we'll see if they can get him on the field at some point this year. But you look at it and you're like, all right, you're stacking. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but you just kind of wonder how this is all going to go. Quarterback, you can't do that. You can't stack like Jared Curtis, Faizon, and a couple other guys, and you're like, all right, I got my 3 to 4 quarterbacks that I can work with and see who pans out. You got to take one. And then you're hoping that your evaluation and the one guy is the right one. And it's not that easy. I do feel bad for these coaches where it's like, yeah, I mean, we're doing the best we can with the information that we have. But again, we take one. So many other positions, you're taking 3 to 5 guys. So you only need a couple of them to hit. Quarterback, you're taking one. So it's just naturally you're going to have a low hit rate there, right?
Yeah. And, with Faizon, interesting, kind of dealing with an injury, right? Seems like not a ton of information has come out on that. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him again in a Grimsley uniform.
Really?
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's been a few weeks. I know they keep saying week to week, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was kind of maybe shut him down, right? Get him ready for.
Yeah, he'll be here in December.
Yeah, and that is, I think, unfortunate, right? You look across college football right now, and the freshman quarterbacks that are playing, obviously, Bryce Underwood, that's a kid that started 54 games in high school. The other two kind of young guys that are making headway, Malik Washington at Maryland, Jaron Chiave Sagapatelli at Cal, like both those guys, 36 starts. And they each made like deep runs in the playoffs as seniors. Now, when you look at Faizon, 31 starts if he doesn't start another game. I mean, he's got statistically the cleanest profile of all these blue chip signal callers here in the 2026 cycle. 77 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. Like, he is so methodical as a decision maker. I just think for Tennessee. And no one's really talking about it right now. Like, okay, let's say Faizon doesn't play another game, right? How does that impact the quarterback outlook for them in 2026 post, Joey Aguilar? It's just something to monitor, right? Yeah. And it's not. I'm not saying it's the end all be all. Like, I'm not saying you have to play, meaningful games late into your senior season. I just think for Tennessee, unfortunate, right? What you hear coming out of Knoxville, like, this is our quarterback of the future. This is the guy that we've invested in. This is the guy we push the chips in. This is the guy we beat many to the punch for. And injuries happen, and it just seems kind of unfortunate for them. And minor setback, I would say, with Faizon.
So to put a bow on all of this, you've been very gracious with your time, Andrew, and I really appreciate it. The thing that I've kind of wondered, and you're seeing across the landscape, is Joey's 24 and he's thriving. The best 2 Tennessee seasons offensively, it looks like it's going to be with 2 24-year-olds, with Hendon Hooker, his senior year in 22. Tennessee fans are really enjoying this offensive renaissance here through the air, and you're seeing a lot of young quarterbacks struggle across. I mean, it's not just Arch. Everyone's looking at Arch, but it's not just him. and DJ's having a rough start to the year. And you look all around, and you're like, the older quarterback's winning. John Mateer, older guy, he's Bo Pabula, weighted his turn. He's doing great at Mizzou. You look around, and it's like the older guys are winning here. And you saw in the national championship game, you had Riley Leonard and Will Howard commanding these high-powered teams around him. I mean, part of me wonders, and you just made a great point about, like, if we don't see Faizon and he doesn't have the reps, it's like, are you sure you really want to go into next year with just because they're going to take a transfer quarterback no matter what if Merkling leaves. Like, there's no way around you just rolling into next year with a redshirt freshman, a true freshman in your quarterback room. But I don't think you can just take a Gaston Moore like as your third transfer guy. And it's so interesting. It's not my job. It's why they're paid big bucks in terms of GM and roster management. But I do kind of wonder if they're more apt to take another 1 year plug and play guy to give George and Faizon additional year to get ready and compete, especially because, like you just said, Faison's not going to get those reps potentially the rest of the way. And George played a bunch of high school football at Brentwood Academy, but new offensive coordinator all 4 years. Certainly looks the part. He kind of looks like Nico a lot to me. I just can't shake it. Like, I watched the way he moves around the pocket. He just reminds me a lot. I don't know if you see the same, where you just watch it and you're like, this feels Nico, but he also played a lot more football in high school than Nico. He didn't transfer. I don't know. I do kind of struggle with it. Yeah.
The builds are very similar, right? And like, I don't know if it was like Jacob Eason, who used to have like the social handle like Skinny QB, like that is George McIntyre. No, certainly I always thought some similarities in terms of like, I don't know, like pocket movements. And George isn't the athlete that Nico is, but man, he would like for a guy with long limbs, like just kind of some of the cuts he would made and extend plays. Like, no, I see some similarities. I think it would make sense for Tennessee to explore that option. Here's the thing though, right? And you brought up the Arch struggling. You brought up DJ struggling. It seems like everyone thinks every quarterback sucks. My counter here would be like, guys, it's really hard to play quarterback. It's really, 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 really hard to play. And I kind of said coming into the year, like, it's going to be a fascinating college football season because you have so much, like unproven arms around the country at these blue blood programs. And I mean, look at this game again this past weekend, Tennessee and Georgia. Like, we didn't really know what Gunnar Stockton was. And he had a good game, but it's hard. And the thing is the transfer portal quarterback market is getting smaller and smaller because the guys with the COVID years and that extra year of eligibility, like, that's a thing of the past. And now these signal callers that we ranked high for good reason, like, they are having to play, right? Like, they're having to play. So for Tennessee, it would make sense. Hey, let's go grab a veteran, but what does that market look like? I mean, there's probably going to be a John Mateer every cycle. Yeah. Carson Beck down at Miami, but Gio Lopez at North Carolina, that's got off to a bumpier start, and he might not be the sole root of the issue there. A ton of turnover at North Carolina. Devin Dampier at Utah. There are some success stories, but I just think it's going to be harder and harder to find the individuals that have the reps that have played. Like, it's going to be those guys are going to be really coveted because if you build out your team, and we saw it with Notre Dame and Ohio State last year, transfer quarterbacks. I just don't know how many more of those guys are really going to be out there now that we've gotten away from the COVID years. And these young guys are going to have to play, and certainly there's going to be I think a ton of movement with the quarterbacks, but it's getting harder, certainly for sure.
Andrew Ivins, you've been unbelievable with your time here, and I've taken way too much of your time this afternoon. But what can the good folks check out from you over at 247 Sports this week?
Man, we nothing really this week. I'm deep in the class of 2027, right? We got an update coming out on that in a few weeks, and then digging right back into the 2026s. The unfortunate part I think about what we do in this accelerated recruiting timeline is like we got to juggle like 3 cycles at once. And you said it on the front end, like the bulk of Tennessee's class for 2026 is in the barn, right?
Yeah.
And for me, and like, you know, at 247 Sports, as long as I'm heading up the rankings, we're going to put huge stock in the senior seasons. And you look around college football, like the true freshmen that are playing are like guys that had really good senior years. And, you know, I fight that battle behind the scenes, but at the same time, you know, fans have turned the page to 2027. So we're going to get the 2027 update out. And then we're going to get back in the 2026s leading up to the early signing period. I'll say this, I peeked at the visitors list for Tennessee this past week, and obviously an electric environment. But man, they had some 2027s there. I like a lot, right? Some guys that are going to be major risers for us. So that's coming out soon. And just in the tape dungeon, right? But it's a fun college football season, so it makes the weekends enjoyable.
I love it. Andrew Ivins, keep up the great work, my friend, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.